Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to our Petro Talks. It is the seventh edition. Today we have a very good guest, which is Kelechi Ojukwe. He is from Nigeria. Today we will be talking about local content promotion as well as technical synergies between Angola and Nigeria. As you guys may know, Angola and Nigeria are the Africa's biggest oil producing country. We reach more than 2 million barrels of oil per day. And today, Angola's production is around 1,200,000 barrels. And I think Nigeria is 1,700,000 barrels. So today we will be looking for potential synergies between Angolan and Nigerian companies. We will be also talking about potential technical and service contracting between Angola and Nigerian companies, as well we will be talking about the licensing rounds between both countries. Angola is now launching the onshore blocks, and Nigeria also start the marginal fields round. So Kelechi, welcome to PetroAngola. PetroAngola is a consulting company which is specialized in oil and gas. We also run the first African specialized website for oil and gas, which is also PetroAngola. And today we are live streaming through Zoom and as well as on Facebook on our page, official page from Facebook. So Kelechi, welcome to Angola. We are at the same timetable, I think, and PetroAngola is happy to having you. So you are a very good host. We have postponed this meeting for a long time, but today we are here and you are welcome. So I'll give you time to present yourself and talk about you.
Thank you, Patricio, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I think this is, I want to also use the opportunity to thank PetroAngola for the opportunity to start discussing intra-African issues. This, I think, before introducing myself, I think it's important to mention that this should, and I expect this to probably turn out to be a bit of a new geopolitical renaissance in oil and gas that could probably propel or be propelled into from the private from the private sector into the public sector. I mean the governments. So hopefully we will see a traction on this synergy we're about to nurture. Yes, I've got, my name is Kelechi Ojukwu. I am from Nigeria. I have had a rewarding and yet vibrant career as an engineer with bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I have a master's in petroleum engineering from Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh. And I've completed my requirements for the award of a PhD in petroleum economics, just awaiting my final viva and award, hopefully by post-COVID-19. I started my career 30 years ago. That's quite some time, in 1990. And I've worked in about 5 continents over that time and 14 countries, including Angola. My career is equally split between the service sector and the operating E&P sector, of course, and as an entrepreneur. So I've been working as an entrepreneur for close to 10 years. I would say 8 to be exact, but and I've also worked for IOCs, independents, and indigenous operators. So my experience sort of covers quite a good, the length and breadth of E&P business, and both from the Nigerian private sector to the public sector. Though I may not be still the right person to, in Nigeria to be discussing all the issues here relating to local content, but I have paid my dues. I spent about 15 years working in Nigeria and 15 years overseas. So Schlumberger in 1990, I left as a principal reservoir engineer, from field engineer to principal reservoir engineer for Africa, based in Houston and Luanda in Angola. And then I joined Shell in 2000 and as a global technology deployment coordinator in Houston, and traveled around the world doing that in Reichswijk and Oman, Middle East, and eventually ended up as a project manager for PS North in Aberdeen, UK. Then I joined Afren in 2010 as the first asset manager and returned to Nigeria eventually in 2011 when I started the subsidiary of the indigenous company called First Hydrocarbon Nigeria as the first chief operating officer of the company. So ever since leaving FHN, or what was called First Hydrocarbon Nigeria in 2013, I have joined Petrosmart, which was a company that we founded, way back in 2000. And things have been going on pretty well, including being, going to NNPC as a consultant to manage the restructuring of NNPC in 2016 to 17. So that's really a snapshot of my career, and I look forward to having a nice conversation with you, Patricia.
Thank you, Kelechi. Thank you for joining us once more. Well, you talked about yourself. I'll talk about myself. I'm Patricio Kingongo. I'm a petroleum engineering, and I'm the CEO from PetroAngola, which is a consulting company specialized in oil and gas. Well, I have 12 years of experience. I worked for ExxonMobil from United States, in Canada, and here in Angola. In Angola, I worked for Block 15, which was one of the biggest oil producing blocks here in Angola, capable of producing more than 600,000 barrels of oil per day. I work also for the Ministry of Finance, for the Angola Ministry of Finance. I work for tax auditing, and also I used to work with the oil managing institution here regarding to Minister of Petroleum. I also work with, now we have a National Petroleum Agency, which is the concessionary and also the regulator. So I used to work with those institutions. So today we will be talking about the local content and technical synergies. Angola is now having problems with oil production, which is declining significantly. We lost more than 600,000 barrels of oil over the past 5-6 years, and our peak production was about 2 million barrels of oil in 2008. And with this problem, the government has come with a solution of launching new blocks. We started last year in 2019 with 10 blocks on offshore, and right now we are preparing 9 blocks onshore. Nigeria is also facing the same activities, is launching marginal fields. Angola also worked in marginal field legislation on the last 2 years, and today we have one marginal field that is starting producing start 2 weeks ago. So I would like to from your point of view, Kelechi, Nigeria is like the front page regarding to local content in Africa. Although we don't have many countries producing oils, and both countries, Angola and Nigeria, are the one who comes up in the list. But I would like to hear from you. And for us in Angola, when we want to talk about local content in Africa, we have you guys as like the mirror, because we know that legislation regarding to local content in Nigeria is stronger than Angola. So how do you see these comments? Because other comments are people in Angola. Is that true? Do you think that your legislation regarding to local content is strong? You have a very good promotion of local content. How many companies do you have servicing the oil and gas industry, companies in Nigeria, and how many companies do you have producing oil, which is indigenous companies, and how many companies do you think, or do you know how many companies do you have in Nigeria servicing the oil and gas industry?
Thank you, Patricio. Well, yes, Nigeria inherited the status of the oil giant of Africa. but a lot is expected of Nigeria. And we are not exactly where we want to be, but we have achieved quite a lot. Now, you can imagine the country that lifted its first crude oil in 1958. I think, if I'm correct, February 17th of 1958, which was Hemephasus was the tanker that lifted the first Nigerian crude oil way back then. And it took so many years for Nigeria to even come into the frontiers of oil and gas, indigenous oil and gas participation, including the inception or the creation of NNPC in 1977. So overall, I like to always pitch local content from the public sector perspective before the private sector, because Nigerian government, policy-wise, has done remarkably well in thinking Nigeria first, and in getting Nigerians involved with the creation of NNPC way back in 77, and subsequently creating subsidiaries in 1998 and 1988 and 89, such as NPDC, which is the local indigenous E&P company focusing on upstream activities. And then you have IDSL, which is focusing on technical services, seismic and so on. And also you have the NETCO, which was also created in 1988, that is focused on engineering services, not just for the oil sector, but for the non-oil sector as well. So if you look at the aspirations of the founding fathers of this country, you could see that NPDC as the producing company was supposed to actually not just be a national oil company, but probably look outside of the shores of Nigeria. So overall, Nigerian companies, Nigerians have been playing a role since 1989 as indigenous companies, even though they are from the private sector, public sector. It was not until 1990, 91, thereabout, that the private sector came in. And I would like to recognize famous ex-Schlumberger engineers, that were able to launch out into the wild and try to make something happen. Now, those days were different, of course. And today we can see Nigeria can boast of at least hundreds of service companies in the service sector, which are fully indigenous. We can boast of tens of independent companies, and we can boast of tens of marginal field producers as well in the E&P side. So there are two aspects that Nigerians have played a big role in the E&P sector and in the service sector. The service sector commenced around the early 90s, like I said, with the likes of Dr. Ralph Ekezie. He used to be, I joined Schlumberger just about then, and he was recruiting people for his company, Petrodynamics, which is now called, I think, Drill Up Petrodynamics. So it has been a long journey, and I can tell you that we have done remarkably well with Nigerian oil companies holding little but significant reserves today, at least 1.6% of the reserves from just the marginal field and so risk operators. And then, of course, significant, some 60,000 barrels of production just coming from marginal field operators alone. And you can imagine this is a whole lot of companies. And then NPDC, of course, being the foremost indigenous company or E&P producer, is currently, as of 2018, made about 215,000 barrels per day. That's a significant portion of Nigeria's production. So, yeah, I could say that we have done very well, but a lot is still expected of us, a lot of opportunities.
Thank you for leaving this overview of Nigerian oil and gas companies, and also the production and the history of the oil and gas industry within your country. I would like to tell everyone that is watching us and the people that are here at Zoom that you can leave your question in the chat. question or suggestion, I'll be more than welcome to make them. And also people on Facebook can do the same. You can leave your question and suggestion on the chats and they will be read by me. So Kelechi, here in Angola, we are starting right now with the marginal fields. And we, differently from Nigeria, the Angolan companies has a very few percentage of the oil production. For instance, the Sonangol, which is our national oil company, has less than 2% of the global oil production in the country. And apart from Sonangol, we have just one company, which is some oil that produces about 5,000 barrels of oil, or I mean, less than 1% of our global oil production. Here in Angola, the production is extremely dominated by the major oil companies. We have like Total, BP, Chevron, Exxon, and NI that they are producing oil here in Angola. Right now, Block 17 is the biggest oil producer. It's about 650,000 barrels of oil per day. And we are launching now the marginal fields, in which, in my point of view, are the opportunity for us to having like small companies and mid-sized companies getting the country. It doesn't matter if it is national or international, mid-sized companies, but also principally on the onshore blocks, we're having more local companies getting in. Right now, we are on debate on which companies they will be joining us on the onshore blocks that will be launched on the fourth semester of this year. And we would like to know more from you. From what I could on my analysis, I could see that you have more than 100 indigenous companies that you were sent more than 100 fields. Local for marginal fields, more than 100 marginal fields for indigenous companies. How many of these fields are already in production?
Well, over ordered in the past, Nigeria has only conducted auctions such as the one we are doing now once in 2003. There was a process in 2007, which was a divestment process also by the government. But at least for marginal field, it was almost it'd been long coming for Nigeria to get back to the divestment, or at least the process of giving away some fields to indigenous professionals to participate and increase their participation in the sector. We're looking at 57 more fields being awarded according to the Department of Petroleum Resources. We don't know if that number will change, but for now, we're looking at about 57 oil and gas fields. Remember, these are fields, not oil blocks. The E&P. I would like to digress a little bit to say that Nigerians, the government has played an important role in divesting certain assets to indigenous players, and also certain companies in the past to encouraging indigenous players to assume and acquire those companies, like Panocean and so on. And there has been Shell also to be commended for actually divesting a whole lot of onshore oil blocks. Now, having said that, that has led to a group of independents emerging in the space, big independents, powered by Nigerian indigenous players. So that led to an exodus of Nigerian professionals from the IOCs, international oil companies, into these independent companies, flourishing on the onshore axis. And you can see the migration to the offshore, and hopefully eventually one day we will get to the deep water. Of course, some service companies are already providing rigs on the land, offshore, and deep offshore as well right now. So we have seen a lot of changes and a lot of improvement and enhancement of local content. Now, comparing this to Angola, where I have been many years ago in the mid 90s, when Angola was still at the infantry stage, trying to pick itself up from the war. Now, there is a remarkable difference. Nigeria is blessed with a lot of onshore oil reserves. And even today, the oil reserves from onshore Nigeria still dominate, even on the having been producing from these resources for so many years. You can see since 1957, 58, we've been producing. We have still about 17 billion barrels left in the onshore region of Nigeria. So that's significant, okay? But no, that has led to the divestment of some of these brown, what I'll call late life fields to indigenous players who are mostly able to resource or find funding and investors because these are actually producing assets in most part. So it is quite different from also a country like Angola that started offshore and now going into the onshore region, which is not as mature as the offshore region. So most of your production, I presume, is coming from offshore at the moment, with a small portion coming from the onshore. Whereas in Nigeria, you can actually say that production onshore had dominated the past, and production onshore and offshore are probably at par at the moment. So I look forward to not an exactly different same pathway as Nigeria has told, but I think you are faced with a slightly different challenge, which is how do you participate in your marginal fields? These fields are yet to be, in most cases, proven onshore, and the proven ones offshore are not yet as mature as the IOCs might want to divest them. So these are the challenges you might have to face. And that is where the government comes in. Government has played a significant role in inspiring and in, should I say, enforcing, not only making they enforced it by creating the right enabling laws to make this happen, which I will talk about.
So I think this what you just said is what makes the things more specific between both countries is that you right now you have like your production is divided by onshore and offshore, right? So you have experience in both operations. Angola is now what we did. We start our oil and gas industry onshore. Like the first field, commercial field, was found offshore on the 50s, right? Because our industry, the exploration started in 100 years ago, but we start producing by the end of the 50s, and the first field was onshore. But we did differently. We closed operation of onshore and we started going offshore, and we went deeper and deeper. Now most of the production in Angola is coming from ultra deep water, although the fields are profitable, but only the big companies can do this kind of investments. You know that we have a lot of problems aside from the oil and gas industry, like as almost all African countries have economic problems and also social problems that sometimes avoid us to improve our performance regarding to the oil and gas industry. But right now, how do you think that Angola and Nigeria can work together regarding to operating onshore fields?
Yes, thank you for bringing up that question. Actually, as you know, there are 57 fields in Nigeria today that has been earmarked for award as marginal fields. What makes a marginal field in Nigeria is clearly defined, and each time could be redefined by the minister in Nigeria. So more and more assets keep making it into that portfolio. And for these 57 assets, which are significantly, I would say, should be proved reserves until we see them and their details, you will find that, according to the DPR director, that there were close to, if not more than 600 companies that actually indicated interest in them, Nigerian companies. So Just using that statistic.
600 companies.
That is correct. So according to the director of Petróleo Resources, there was about 10 companies on the average bidding for a field on the average. So when you look at that kind of participation and interest, it just tells you a lot that there's competence in this country. There are people looking for opportunities. Each of these companies have paid a certain amount of money, about 1.5, $1,500 equivalent, to be able to get to the point of being pre-qualified. And I don't know exact number of this 600 approximate number that might have been pre-qualified, but I hear that it's as close as that number on the upside of that number. That means majority of the people that indicated interest have been pre-qualified to participate. So given that scenario and 57 assets, given that only one company might be awarded a block, yeah, even when you try to sandwich or marry them together, you find that half of these companies may not be successful. Even where they are, they will still be looking for more reserves to replace what they have, because marginal fields are very small reserves. So there is a huge opportunity for Nigerian oil companies to support you in Angola. It's actually an opportunity, for remarkable synergy, I would say, because there are people who have enormous industry experience in Nigeria and abroad. People on the board are experienced E&P players, from geologists to reservoir engineers to drilling engineers to petroleum geology, petrophysicists and the likes, all as some of them have worked as managing directors of oil and gas companies, IOC. Some of them have worked on this as executive directors. For example, in my company, Iconic Energy, which is also participating, we have on our board ExxonMobil executive directors, senior managers of Shell who were in Shell. So we are well constituted at the board level with sound corporate governance control. And that is the kind of thing you're beginning to see in Nigeria. And that's because there are big companies that have emerged, such as Seplat in Nigeria, as you may have heard, which is traded not just in the Nigerian Stock Exchange, but also in the London Stock Exchange, that has done remarkably well in oil production, but also in gas production, okay? So you can see Nigeria has gone from just harnessing its oil resources to also harnessing its gas resources, all inspired by good policies of the government, even though a lot more is desired. You can see there's a whole lot of momentum. Very large multinational companies are beginning to see the need to divest what they have onshore and minimize the risk involved in doing business onshore, which include community risk, okay? You know of the legacy issues that has come to bedevil Nigeria over the past couple of years or decades, such as militancy and so on, which hampered and increased the risk of onshore operations and shallow water operations. So now, the indigenous companies coming into the play of the forefront begin to de-risk these projects and the opportunities themselves, okay? So I did help support my company in the acquisition and taking over of one of the oil blocks in 2011 and 2010 to 11. And at the time, most of that field was shut in for many years. And just by the indigenous company coming in, the community embraced the company and allowed the production to commence without disruptions. So there is a big play of Nigerian indigenous players in the E&P sector that can actually expand easily to be able to sustain their enterprise in the future. They have the key men involved, so they are funders friendly, so investment friendly companies that can easily attract funding from Europe, the United States, and Asia. to invest in Angola if the opportunities are right. So they know what they'll be looking for because they're quite experienced, and they're able to bring a good mix of Nigerian versus international or foreign players on the board or as investors. As a good case is Seplat with Moral and Plum when they got started. Another case study, there are so many examples to give in Nigeria, I can tell you. Elan just divested, you're beginning to also see mergers and acquisitions. Some of these companies coming to create value, take a field from non-producing to production and be able to divest what, the company, make their money and exit. And the indigenous company now acquires that asset to take it to use it to replace their oil reserves. And at the same time, improving their investment in the gas and leading the frontiers of gas production in Nigeria for domestic use. So I think Nigeria has begun to take its own future into its own hands. And I would like to commend the professionals who are highly entrepreneurial, and of course the government who has empowered them by the Nigerian Local Content Act.
I have one question from Eduardo Lopez. He's asking what percentage of local component is required from investor in oil and gas in Nigeria? How much, which percentage is asking for investor to put in local content? You have it in legislation, you put it in contracts. How is the legislation regarding to local content in Nigeria?
Yes, I would like to, first of all, a disclaimer here. I'm probably not the right authority to answer that question, but I can speak from the industry perspective, wider industry perspective, and my knowledge of the Local Content Act itself. Okay, now this has been a journey, and over the journey, there are key aspects of the law that I'd like to talk about. There are the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act of 2010. I can feel of Nigeria have done quite well over the last 10 years. Now, one key element, the first element of that law is for the E&P companies. It mandates that Nigerians must be given first consideration for any divestment of oil and gas assets, okay? First consideration, and that's important, yeah? And then the second part is suggesting exclusive consideration of Nigerian companies, okay, on the onshore areas, all right? So when you look at the service companies, they enjoy a certain degree of exclusivity and consideration. So and then the third part is instituting a board, which is the NCDMB, to guide, monitor, intervene, and actually implement this process. So it wasn't just a law, it was also an implementation process guided by this body that has been led over the last 10 years to where it is. So this body has set several targets and has mandated by the, empowered by the law to set goals and targets and expectations. From time to time, they give 5 years expectation for oil companies to comply, by which they have to make sure certain level of Nigerian content has been achieved. And when that gets there, they expect you to go to the next phase. So those regimes of five years has led us to where we are at the moment, where you could hardly find any international oil company providing services onshore Nigeria, okay? So this is—
So you have more Nigerian companies providing services onshore than foreign companies?
Mostly, yes, unless where they cannot. So they have exclusive consideration where they can, okay? And also, but when it started, it was, it was a kind of budget allocation and giving them a portion of the market share. but they were competing with the IOCs initially. They were in a competition where, if you were to bid for a contract with multinational companies, you are allowed 10% margin of to be considered. So unless your budget, your bid is 10%, more than 10% than the lowest bidder, you will be considered. So Nigerian companies had the edge. And with that, it was now left for these companies to actually follow that due process because it is law and because there was NCDMB enforcing it and monitoring it and checkmating it. It went through that trajectory to where we are today, where multinational companies don't see the need to compete with indigenous players onshore. They see the need to funnel, if necessary, funnel their technologies through indigenous companies as such.
Oh, very good, very good, very good. What we have here in Angola, we have the overall percentage of local content in the contract is about 10%. But we also face a problem once, which we were forcing to have more local content in the block, but the prices or the cost of the investment was bigger with the local content comparing with the foreign companies providing the service. Have you ever had this problem in Nigeria?
Definitely.
Is it the same in Nigeria, or providing local content always reduce the cost of the investment?
That was the initial challenge. We metamorphosed into where we are today. There has been a lot of issues in the past. Like I said, business of indigenous or Nigerian content or local content began as early as I would say 1990, if I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken, 1990, 91, with the likes of Petrodynamics stepping into the game. Now, you can imagine a first and foremost Nigerian company with one owner, okay, starting a directional drilling company like Anadris Schlumberger. He used to be an MD of Anadris Schlumberger. So, that was the beginning of a new era. I was a freshman in the industry at the time, and I was highly inspired by that. So, the main challenge that Nigerian indigenous players have actually faced over the first 5 years of the funding and also payments. So some of the times, they're able to execute the jobs, but they're not able to get paid because it was a failure. But the biggest challenge of all was access to the jobs, access to market. So how do they get the jobs? They acquire equipment from the US or from wherever, and they're ready to work. They've left their jobs, but no job. Maybe they do one job and no other job. So there was a lot of agitation in the industry. There was a lot of problems, litigations. There was a lot of pushing around. You're not paid, they're not being paid at the same time they're expected to survive. So a lot of the companies formed a group called PetroAngola. That group of Nigerian oil and gas technology companies came together to have one voice. And that was key to the success. So you can see that the private sector was doing a lot of work on their own to twist the story and the narrative from public sector driven indigenous Nigerian content to private sector driven, which has happened now. That we don't hear so much of the NNPC subsidiaries any longer, except MPDC, which is still producing a lot of oil. But we hear a whole lot more about these Nigerian companies from every aspect of the business: pipeline, offshore, rig supplies. So it started by this institution, now an institution, PetroAngola, beginning to lobby the government and beginning to also lobby the companies to provide jobs for them. They were now looking for ways to reduce their cost. Because they were single entities, they didn't have the economic of scale working for them. That's on the service side. And on the E&P side, cost also was an issue for marginal field players who would probably be releasing a rig for one well and have to demobilize that well. They wouldn't have campaign of wells to drill at the time as the oil companies. So their ability to negotiate good rates was non-existent, right? Unless where they loan these rigs from the operator. So overall, when you look at the emergence also of community challenges and also the security challenges in Nigeria, it increased cost. And then the cost of importation of goods and services has increased their cost, which is what IOCs don't usually face at that level. It's minimal for them.
Yes.
So, you know, for a smaller company to survive with all these cost overflows here and there, they needed to be able to have, you know, special consideration, which the Nigerian content law, as comprehensive as it can be, was factored into and making it possible for these companies to give Nigerians a leeway, even when they're overpriced.
Okay, thank you. I have here a question from Chikwe. He's asking what constitutes a marginal field in Angola? Well, there are two main factors. The first one is less than 300 million of barrels as reserve. And the second one is the rate of return cannot be less than 15%, 1.5. So that are the two main factors for marginal fields in Angola. Well, I have another comment from Nuno Rosa. In fact, Angola has a long history of production from onshore, but production was shut down due to the civil war. Now we are reopening the onshore again, so that's good. Mr. Charles also made a comment about 300 companies were pre-qualified for the ongoing marginal field in Nigeria. So how come you can engage more than 300 companies to go for a field or oil field in Nigeria? Here in Angola, I'm not seeing more than 20 companies, Angolan companies, going after oil and gas block. How come you in Nigeria, you can have 600 companies looking for an oil field? How do you promote, or what is the magic behind it to have more than 600 local companies looking for oil fields?
But Patricio, you will remember what I said. Nigeria began to lift oil in 1958. As 20 years later, they started to talk about Nigeria local content through the national company. And then 20 years again later, they started to talk about local content from the private sector. Now, the first marginal field divestment was conducted in 2003. I was still in the industry. I was about 12 to or thereabout years in the industry. I did not even contemplate participating in it. I did not know how to. I did not consider myself qualified or competent, or, you know, it's politically driven as well. There is a political aspect of the process of getting an oil and gas asset in Nigeria. So it's not just technical, but you also have to have the financial, and you also have to have, these are criteria that you must be able to
So you are saying that there must be a commitment from the government as well to having a certain amount of companies going for or getting into the oil and gas industry? Do you need to have a strong commitment from the government?
Yes, that's very important. That commitment from the government, they were able to do it before, has shown that it works. And also providing the right fiscal incentives. It is commitment, yes, but what compels or motivates players in the oil and gas in marginal field is the fiscal regime that the government has provided for the marginal fields. So what we saw as, you know, going through our tutoring, the tutoring process of 2003 is that a whole lot of fields were awarded to marginal field players. They faced common challenges of working together, number one, okay? Different entrepreneurs, coming together to work together. In some cases, there were people that did not have E&P experience trying to work the asset. How do they go? So a whole lot, and then funding challenges as well. Some of these assets were not proved, okay? So they were not bankable reserves, okay? So, and most of them, none of them was producing. So that is why it was challenging, and after 10 years, there's only a handful of those wells or those fields that are in production, okay, for marginal fields. Now the government has done something remarkably different. The government has learned from the past and created a new scheme that is all empowering, okay? So you can see, I think 23 fields, if I'm correct, were thrown out then. Now it's 57 fields, okay? And the government is beginning to look for bankable assets that Nigerians can actually take to production, okay? And the government is also, that's DPR in this case, the government arm, is thinking of how to lead these companies by the hand to guide them to make sure that they have off-take routes, okay, from the IOCs and where necessary, other operators, independent operators, and also to help them lead them by the hand to ensure they are able to get the requisite funding and go through that whole, to de-risk the project. So it is government inspired through a policy, good policies, incentives, although more is desired as well. But it's also the other side of things where the IOCs and independents are collaborating to divest more, to give more, to work, give them access for evacuation, and the communities are also welcoming them and so on. So it's becoming a win-win affair in this space.
I have a question from Paulo Mauricio. He's asking from Facebook, how did they deal with, talking about Nigeria, how does Nigeria deal with the resistance of the operators with the international operators, right, the yachts, with the concept of that local companies do not have quality? Because it happens here in Angola, and I think it happens everywhere. The operators, they are always against the local companies because they say that they don't have quality and they prefer their own service contractors. How do you deal with it?
Well, that is the root. That is how it always starts. Actually, what is quality? The most important thing in the oil and gas business is safety. Safety first. Now, there is a qualification process which a company should undergo before awarding contracts. Make sure that the companies will be able to deliver what they said they would do. But if you go way back to the past, in the early 90s, where there were no technologies in the open market, mostly pre-90s were dominated by the international oil companies who were monopolizing their technologies, so to speak, okay? So it was difficult to talk about local content at that time. You know, you begin to wonder, how did the first directional drilling company in Nigeria get started? Where did he get his tools from? Okay, so I want to give credit to the United States for commercializing some of these technologies as at the time their patents had expired, and making it possible for access to technologies becoming possible. Although I am an advocate for Nigeria to begin to invest in ownership of these technologies as opposed to service-oriented or service-mindedness. So yes, you would expect lower quality delivery in the early days, as it were. As I mentioned, it led to payment challenges where IOCs refused to pay them. It led to litigations and so on. But the government stepped in to say it doesn't matter. You know, as long as they can deliver this safely, it doesn't matter. You know, you have to accommodate these guys. And 10 years later, there is a law making it, it doesn't matter. You must accommodate them and put gateways to ensure that, process is followed and quality is achieved. And today,
so you have also the foreign companies following the process from the Nigerian company to provide the service. So there is also a help from international companies to make sure that Nigerian companies will provide the service and the quality as well.
The likes of Shell started this process, inspiring if you will, nurturing Nigerian companies to success. Some of them are big pipeline construction companies today in Nigeria, doing big things that IOCs don't do anymore. They could actually come to Angola and do exactly the same thing. We have big pipeline companies in Nigeria. We have big drilling companies in Nigeria. Some of their rigs are idle at the moment. They can come and drill in Angola. So there is a whole lot of capacity and equipment and investment have been made here that we can actually leverage in Angola as well to create an all-African marketplace as opposed to Nigerian institute market. So
very nice. Just for us to be at the same page, you are saying that Nigerian service company do not just service catering or transportation or accommodation. You are in the business. You provide technical service. Is that right? Is that what you're saying right now?
They provide it all. Technical services in terms of hands-on, nuts and bolts of it, to the intellectual aspect of it as well. My company, for example, PetroSmart, provides technical services, can carry out technical due diligence, can conduct and provide the CPR, competent persons report, just like any of these companies can do in the UK or United States or Canada. Yeah, so we have competency. We have been able to do this all over the world. Remember, I've worked in 14 countries. I've been at I've done it all in Shell. I've done it all in Schlumberger, all over the world. We have hundreds of people like that in Nigeria. So, like me, with the same who are ready to, run affairs of E&P excellently well. Yeah. All you will now ask is, how do we, having come this far, what are the challenges we're facing in Nigeria, and how do we overcome some of those challenges? Looking back, I see funding challenges, for example. I see where government can grant, provide grants for startups. That's where, there's an early start issue here, okay? I can see where NCDMB, for example, which is the monitoring board, can also power new breed of venture capitalists. At the moment, they're doing everything they can to inspire Nigerians to come into the industry and increase local content. It's remarkable what is being done. It's unbelievable, including awarding loans, including nurturing, intervening in taking companies from hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars, in turnover and so on. But what we would like to see, these entities are not actually, they are not financial institutions, so to speak. But for example, they've committed $350 million US, okay, to intervene in Nigerian companies and take them to the next level, okay? This is called Project 100. And they sample 100 companies and they take them from point A to point B and invest in all sorts of E&P, midstream, upstream, and refineries, and so on. Okay.
I have two more questions. I have two more questions for you regarding to that issue, and then we have to change here the conversation to the end, because we are almost also to the end of our meeting. We have about 6 minutes to 7. I told you that times when we are talking, when we have Petro talks, that it just flies. We don't see it flying, but it flies, and we are about 7 p.m. Regarding, I have one question for Nono Rosa. In terms of engineering and manufacturing, how are Nigerian companies doing compared with international players? How Nigerian companies can compete in terms of price with international players? Very quickly, I know that you already talked about it, but do you want to talk a little bit more about it?
Well, this is one area that Nigeria needs to invest in, okay, and be empowered in. Local content in the manufacturing sector is quite infinitesimal. And this is, Nigerian in local content, like I said, is done remarkably well, but there's still a whole lot more to achieve. We need to invest more in R&D. We need to invest more in competitiveness and the manufacturing and infrastructure. Of course, I always advocate for the government to step into infrastructure. But oil companies, Nigerian companies can be empowered by grants, by NCDMD particularly, to go into manufacturing, creation of tubulars, for example, and be able to not only for local consumption, provide for local consumption, but also be able to export internationally to Ghana, to Angola, to all these other places. And at competitive prices, I don't imagine it being anything less, because Nigeria has low cost of labor, for example, just like in India or China. So we should be able to remain competitive. But one thing we must stop, or not encourage further, is importation of almost everything, technology, and the goods that we need as raw materials. We need to stop that. Okay, we can machine components of tools here. We can assemble tools here. We can go through the value chain of the service delivery as well, not just acquiring or renting technologies and creating services. So we are service minded, and I encourage us to improve in that aspect. And I'm sure this is where NCDMD will be looking at going in the future.
Yeah, I have a comment from Daniel.
From what I've seen a lot of achievements so far. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I have a comment from Daniel. He's saying that local content needs to be a win-win situation for the oil and gas sector. How do you manage to make the local content companies more competitive? My experience is that true local content company is not so competitive, and in this crisis years, cost is a big factor to keep the sector healthy. I have also another comment from Gerard on Facebook. He's saying that my imperative and lean question is concerning the development of local skills versus opportunity for local companies. Usually in the most of the countries, oil producing countries, local content build a workforce that is skilled and strongly. Also, they build a competitive supply. It's a very big comment. Usually use of the country's competitive supply based locally. Competencies too, in my opinion, since we don't have sustained programs for human resources competencies, development for this industry, and we don't create opportunity based on meritocracy or equal opportunity, we will never succeed even out close to the proud Nigerian market that shines their synergy in promoting the locals. Then are we current sustained to face the comment above with facts in the opposite and based with figures or indicators that the opportunity and quality in our oil market? Well, I would like to take the advantage of this comment, a big comment from Gerard, and I would like to ask you the same thing, and maybe we can discuss a little bit about it. How can we, Africans, start to take over on the oil and gas industry? So this is the other side of our conversation. What can we do? And we can start about the training. We don't have like one strong training institution in Africa which is dedicated for oil and gas. Almost all African professionals that do well in the oil and gas industry, they are training outside Africa, mostly in US and in UK. How can we overcome that? How can Angola and Nigeria, which are the leading producing countries in Africa, what can we both do to help Africans to servicing, to produce, and also to train African people in the oil and gas industry? What is your view about that?
Thank you. I think that's a very excellent question. It touches on the heart of the matter, which is, again, from the first guy there, on competence. How do you ensure that competence? I think you also nailed it, is training. You see, when we were hired in Schlumberger in the early days, we were sent to a training school, a common training school. And in my school, I happened to be the only Nigerian in the school at the time. And it was competitive right from the school. So the best students from all over the world are hired and they are sent to a training center. They may go in there as 36 candidates and maybe only 12 or 15 or 16 will come out. So you see where the competition starts. It's not everyone that should work in the oil and gas. It's not every Nigerian that wants to be in oil and gas in business can. It's not every Nigerian or Angolan that wants to be a logging engineer can. You have to possess a certain degree of aptitude and competence and ruggedity, okay, to be able to do it. And this is where training comes in, the right amount of training, because people's lives are at risk. It's a very delicate and dangerous business. So we need to invest in adequate training, not forced training, but competitive training to maintain competition also when you come to services, when you come to the service sector where you're delivering your services. Nigeria, yes, we can say when we started, there was not much local content, competition in local content. But today, there is competition in local content in Nigeria. So local content is something that needs to be nurtured, and government has a good role to play. I've been to many countries, I've seen it happen in Norway, I've seen it happen in Oman. Oman, when I was there, was, I would say, 10% Omanized. By now, Oman is almost 100% Omanized from what I hear. Okay, it was a vision shared by the government, and it was achieved. So Nigeria can also achieve that. There is competition today. So I think there's a whole lot of things we should be able to do. Training is one of them. We should encourage that. We should also be begin to start to do for Angola to build up so slowly. You can't achieve it all in one day. It's a journey. So that journey mindset is very, very key and important. We should also, create corporate governance structure where the companies are run properly. If you have that entity, it helps to attract more funding. Investors don't like one-man shows. We need to think value chain. We need to think technology. Investing in the infrastructure, the local manufacturing is essential to feed. Otherwise, it's almost like in the E&P sector where we produce our oil and just sell it instead of refining it as well. So there needs to be value chain in the service sector as well. We need to take ownership of technologies, okay? A lot of the people that I left, when we left Schlumberger, a lot of my ex-colleagues who are Canadians, who are Americans, who are French, who are Germans, they went to start oil service companies, but they were not just providing services, they invented tools and technologies. Yeah. They built the tools and technologies to advance the frontiers of the industry, okay? Well, to add value, the value creation, the added value, and the margin they make is awesome. And they grow these businesses to a certain level, they sell it and they start another one because we had the same amount of training. We're all trained equally. But here in Nigeria, we don't have we're not empowered to do that. We're not empowered to advance. Even if you advance, you develop a tool or get a patent and invest in the technology, you'll probably not be able to get a job for it in Nigeria. So this is where we have challenge. We need government to support us. Yeah. PetroSmart, for example, my company, we have 2 patents, and one of them could add enormous value in the E&P space for Nigeria. Okay, and it takes investment, and which is why I summon venture capitalists to come into the oil and gas space in Nigeria. We don't always have long-term loans. Most of the loans in Nigeria are short-term loans, so the interest rates are very horrendous. They are prohibitive.
Well, we are running out of time. We have a couple of questions here which are very interesting. But one more comment regarding Angola and Africa, what they would be doing, Angola and Nigeria. Now we are having countries like Ghana, we are having Gabon, we are having Equatorial Guinea, we are having Congo, which are starting their own oil and gas industry. Don't you think that we, Angola and Nigeria would be the countries that would be supporting this upcoming industry and not the foreign countries or foreign companies. Don't you think that we are missing something here? What about the cooperation within African producing countries? I know that we have an institution that deal with it, but I think it is not strong. And what we can do for us to start cooperating, changing the experience. And there is a question, what Nigerian indigenous companies can do to come into Angola? So those are the kind of questions that we have to be making to each other and start to finding the answer for that. But for that question, which is from Chikwe, well, Angola is open for any investment. The country is now opening the oil and gas industry. What we want is to diversify the investment in oil and gas industry, and we are open for new companies. We, as PetroAngola, we are also working and supporting the national agency, bringing new investors to the country, also supporting the local companies with regard to entering in the oil and gas industry. So we are promoting right now the oil and gas industry. Is our intention, and we want to see, respect to Angola, we want to see many companies, Angolan companies, getting into the oil and gas industry. So we are promoting. So we are explaining the advantages, because I know that the local companies in Nigeria, they are also creating wealth for the people, and they are also diversifying the economy. So we need to have more local companies in the oil and gas industry, and we need to start. It's easier for us to have a technical synergy and also partnership with Nigerian companies, because we are all here. We share the same culture, and we can work together either in Nigeria or in Angola. So don't you think that right now is the moment for us to take over and start having some position regarding to the oil and gas industry here in Africa? And I know, for instance, Brazil has a big oil and gas show. US has a big oil and gas show. UK has a big oil and gas show. Why don't we, Africa, why don't we have a big oil and gas show yearly, as we have in Rio, as we have in Houston, as we have in Calgary? So we need to start promoting together both countries, and we have the big potential. Most of the investment for the next 25 years in the oil and gas are directed to Africa. So we cannot just be watching. We need to do something. We need to take advantage of it. So are you guys in Nigeria thinking about that?
Thank you, Patricio. And that's quite inspiring. I think that is why we're here.
Well, we have 6 more minutes. We'll close about 6 minutes from now, because we are almost 10 minutes more than we expected. But let's have like that 6 minutes, and I would like you to give your feedback or your point of view about what I just commented.
Yes, I think there's so much we can achieve in a stable Africa. Nigeria used to be well placed and minded to actually lead in this space in Africa, except for distractions, political distractions. Because I remember that in 1988, when IDSL, a division of NNPC, was formed, it also got one of the biggest contracts in Ghana to shoot seismic and probably do the interpretation as well. So you can see that Nigeria is ready today, more ready than it was in 1988. So there is a whole lot of latitude, and Nigerian companies have gone to do business in Ghana before. And I think in some other areas like Kenya as well. So, but these are very little impressions. So I expect much more to come out of what we're about to start today, in discussion with Angola, the 2 main players in Africa in terms of production and reserve. So we should begin to support each other and form synergies, form partnerships. A lot of Nigerian companies would love to do that. And I think it should be widely encouraged. And I think the government will also support it, because this is what Africa should be about. We should think African. This is probably going to be great for the greater African economic emergence post-COVID-19, as opposed to becoming a rental-based Africa to an Africa that fills up the value chain and begin to support each other and support itself at a more considerate cost margin as well. So I think it will be very rewarding for us to begin to have those kinds of harmony develop between Angola and Nigeria, where I'm sure there is huge opportunity for Nigerians to come, partner with Angolans, and exactly replicate exactly what is happening here over there. And you can also copy our laws. You can also go through our staircase. It's not a journey of one day, it's a journey of many years. You have to walk through the aisles and get to that destination. So there's a whole lot of opportunity for us.
Kelechi, we are opening right now and today a door for cooperation between Angolan government with Nigerian government regarding to the oil and gas industry. I know that both countries they met this year at the beginning of the year, this year, and also we are opening doors for both local companies of both countries to start working. I have comments here from Chikwe, and I already answered that, about what indigenous companies from Nigeria can do to get into Angola. So for this kind of question, you can email us and let you have our contacts. You can reach us. And but what I can tell you guys, for everybody that is interested to come into Angola, and I have one another comment from Eduardo, how are the process to qualify companies that have technologies, patents, international certification that can enter the country? I'm the CEO from CERT. So what I can tell you guys is that Angola is open for new investments, is open for new technologies. Our vision is to make the oil and gas industry stronger and stronger and more diversified as possible. So we are open for new investment. You are welcome, and PetroAngola can help the process of bringing companies here. The national agency is opening for new companies to get in. So you can contact us and we can start. And that's why we promote this kind of live session. It is also opportunities for investment. It's also opportunity for technical experience exchange. And there is a lot of things that we can do that of course, we cannot close here in that meeting, but we can continue talking and discussing about it. We are interested in technology. And if you have a technology, Mr. Eduardo, you can send us an email. We can promote your technology here in Angola. PetroAngola is open to that. So I have one question. Let's finish with our meeting with let's answer the final questions. In Nigeria, there are a number of training schools for oil and gas, such as Petroleum Training Institute for middle level manpower, and whole university dedicated for training the high level petroleum professionals. This is from Charles, is a comment. Leonildo Kassomi is asking, what does Mr. Ojoko think about African companies work together to provide more domain of our own reserves in terms of engineering? I think you already talked about that. I have one comment from CA. I think government should be able to approach more local companies and help them to understand that local brain investment is a good thing for the future. So that's also a very nice comment. But let's close with this question of Leonildo. How can we can work technically together? How can we do that? How can we create technology, and how can we support technology? We were discussing last week about having a big hub, African hub, to support the global or the internal oil industry here in our region. And we are almost close. And the government of Angola also and the Nigeria, they came together and they opened. Like now we have a flight from Angola and Nigeria, which is good. Now we can have Angolan entrepreneurs going to Nigeria and so on. So that we are opening the doors. but how we can work together, technical companies working together.
First, I guess that question is for me, Patricia, yeah? We have to begin from training as we are already in discussions of. So we need to start thinking of how to build that human capacity. That's essential in anything. Nigerians have acquired a lot of experience in the oil and gas industry. Nigerians are already lecturing in universities in petroleum engineering. When I graduated from university, there were probably 2 or 3 universities in Nigeria offering petroleum engineering. Now there are so many of them, public and private schools offering petroleum engineering to PhD level. So Angolans can actually come and get hands-on training. We have training institutes, we have academies, we have training centers. Of course, I mentioned to you that PetroSmart has been conducting training. Sometimes the challenge is even having people to come to get this training in Nigeria. Some of the training centers and training schools run short of candidates. So, but if you look African-wide, you can see a lot of opportunity for Angolans to come here, not only get trained in the classroom, but also get trained hands-on and be able to be sandwiched into some of these companies, get some experience in Nigeria, okay? Not only experience in running of the tools, but also field experience, and also learn a couple of words in English, and then go back to Angola, okay? And be able to get employment in some of these oil companies. Now, this is how companies like Oman, countries like Oman in the Middle East, built up their own capacity by sending their candidates to Nigeria, okay, where there's a whole lot of activities. We have the activity levels here, okay, in country. So I think there is a lot of collaboration we can also have on the service domain with a whole lot of Nigerian companies with equipment that are not always busy, okay? Good thing we are all within the Gulf, Gulf of Guinea and Gulf Coast, Gulf of Guinea area. I used to work in Equatorial Guinea. From there, you could actually see part of the shores of Nigeria, okay, on the rigs. We are sharing the same water. So we can ship equipment from Lagos or from Port Harcourt, and you receive it in Luanda, right, from Ilia. Port Ilia is still there, right?
Yeah. Still.
Used to be right there at the port of Ilia. So you receive equipment from Cameroon, from Angola, from Equatorial Guinea, and then you ship them back when you don't need them. So at the time I was in Luanda, Schlumberger had a geomarket flow of equipment and tools around the West African and Central African coast. We can start to do things like that. Nigeria has a lot of equipment. We have rigs we can supply instead of staying idle here, okay? We have also human capacity. We can fly them in as what they call flying squad. The French used to come to Nigeria before as flying squad. They come, they work, they do a job, they go back. Like you just said, there are flights in and out. That's gonna be flights from Lagos to Luanda. We can leverage that. Yes, if movement within Africa is not going to be as cumbersome as it used to be 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So now we can begin to nurture and build that rapport and create that hub from the private sector before the government sector comes in, because that takes a longer time, right? So for now, let's show the appetite. Let's warm it up. Let's get working. We can start small and build it up as we go. And also continue what you're doing on your side, promoting this Angolan initiative and this wider African initiative. We are happy to join you. PetroSmart is happy to join you in this effort.
Yeah, very nice. And thank you, Kelechi, for joining us today. We are out of time. It's about 7:20. This is just the beginning. As I told you, I will promote, and we together, we will promote a bigger discussion where we will introduce more people from both countries. It's my intention to bring both government institutions regarding to the oil and gas industry to start cooperating strongly. So in that way, we can start taking over of our oil and gas operations. I would like to thank you for joining us today. I would like to thank you all the participants in our meeting. So PetroAngola is open to help anyone that is interested in oil and gas industry from the point of view of information, from the point of view of technical support, of having a space to promote your companies. We also have our website that you can make any marketing that you want to do about your company. So we are open. If you have new technologies, we can create events to promote technologies and do everything that we can make together for the same objective, which is producing oil and create wealth for both local companies, for international companies, and for the society as well. So Kelechi, your last words, I give you 30 seconds to say goodbye, and I hope having you next time with us.
I want to thank you. I want to thank PetroAngola, and I want to thank all the audience. I want to thank them for participating, for the interesting questions. And I want to leave with a few words of advice to my Angolan brothers and probably my African brothers in Ghana and all the other oil producing countries. We need to think Africa. We need to think Africa. So that by that I mean we need to resource ourselves and stop expecting our governments to do everything for us. The private sector in Africa has come to be, and we need to step up to the game. We have the requisite education. With the right training, we can do much more. I think we should all start small and build up slowly. Nigeria is a good example. I think we can also partner, form the right partnerships to take ourselves to the next frontier. And that means leveraging on mature environment and mature market like Nigeria to replicate what we have done. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I think with the right investment in training and patronizing each other, we have ability to sustain ourselves long-term and create the right economic balance for our countries and be able to take the oil wealth we have while the oil lasts and divest into other non-oil sectors as well, and including the renewable energy sector, so that we just promote value chain beyond the domain of oil and gas. That is what Africa can do. That is what Africa should do, and become less and less reliant in the foreign countries when it comes to technology. There is no way we can have that big African show if we don't start to invest in technology, R&D, and people.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelechi, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. Bye-bye, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.